Welcome to another edition of the College Basketball Net Profit Show, Wednesday, December 7th. Ian Cameron, Connor Mack, ready to break down another college basketball slate. We'll see if we can keep it's been a good week so far. We'll see if we can keep it going here tonight. Let's jump right into it because I know it was pretty solid the day yesterday, but let's see what we can do tonight here when it comes to this Wednesday slate. And we will begin with the Big Ten matchup between Michigan State and Penn State. Penn State, 4.5 point home favorites in this game. Moved up a little bit from the opener. The total in this one currently are in the 136.5 range. I agree with the move. I mean, we talked about it again. We saw it again last night, which was one of my losses. Maryland +2 could not go on the road and get a victory in a conference game. And that's been the thing all last year. It was a theme in the Big Ten, home court domination. So far this year, we saw Maryland beat Illinois at home. We saw Maryland turn around, lose at Wisconsin last night. Home court is strong in this conference right now. And Michigan State has kind of had some injury setbacks. They've not played good basketball. They got blown out by Notre Dame. They lose as favorites at home against Northwestern. They're just not playing very good right now. They've suddenly stopped scoring a little bit. That's been a concern. I don't know if it's going to get much better here. They were life and death to beat Portland, life and death to beat an Oregon team that struggled early in the year. They lose to Alabama. I mean, it's just been a tough start here for Michigan State. Not at full strength hasn't helped them. Penn State, off a loss to Clemson on the road, but they are back home. And we would remember that at home this year here in Happy Valley, they did beat Butler. They did beat Winthrop and won and covered early in the season. So they've played better basketball at home. Yeah, this to me is it's getting up there now, up to 4.5, but I took Penn State at 3.5. I still lean that way. Connor, what about you?
I lean there with them as well. Right now, I just don't want anything with Michigan State. You know, Hall needs to get back, I think, and then get a little healthy and maybe be at home because they just haven't been the same team, and I don't love this spot right here for them. You mentioned it. It's at 4. Thought 3 was all right. I still think 4 is okay. The one thing, though, that is just Penn State's defense hasn't been the best, but both teams a little bit sloppy with the ball, especially Michigan State. So just because of that, I lean heavy to Penn State. This was one I circled. It's right on the fringe for me. I don't know if I'm going to bet it or not, but I think Penn State at home gets it done. I just wish it was inside of that 3, but I still think they cover here.
Like in Penn State, Connor Mack as well. All right, next up as we continue along here on this Wednesday slate, we've got Siena and Georgetown. We got Georgetown 6-point home favorites, 141.5 the total in this game. Georgetown sucks. I mean, I'm pretty confident saying that. And I don't think this team's very good. 4-5 they are. They did lose at their last game against South Carolina at home as favorites, 74-71. And it's not like South Carolina's been particularly great. They lose against Texas Tech. They fail to cover against the UMBC Retrievers at home. They lose to American University at home. I mean, their only victories this season have been Coppin State in overtime, life and death, as 18-point favorites. Wisconsin Green Bay was their one convincing performance, and LaSalle, which was on a neutral court. That's about it. They've lost to Northwestern, Loyola Marymount, American, South Carolina in their last game. And I'll say this about Siena. This is a Metro Atlantic team. You'd think maybe on paper, a little bit of an athletic, physical mismatch here. I think Siena's a solid team. They've already beat Florida State and Seton Hall this year as underdogs. They're a very good, sound team in terms of scoring the basketball, defensively as well. Their numbers not bad at all, the Siena team. In fact, I'll take their defensive numbers right now over what we're seeing from Georgetown on a consistent basis. And Georgetown's got issues defending the 3, and Siena's shooting the 3 at a very high percentage, 38.8%. I think we got a close game here. I like Siena. I don't trust this Georgetown team, not at all. And I think Siena, when you look at this group, they've shown the ability to punch above their weight class so far this year, if you will. I like them plus the points, lean over the total as well. Connor Mack, Siena, Georgetown.
Yeah, I lean over the total here too. There's been a few Georgetown games and even Siena games that have been under, but Georgetown, not much defense. It's been interesting. This has gone down a point and a half, and lots of over money in this game. I still think it could get there. But I think Georgetown at home is solid here, but there's no fucking way. I'm gonna lay it right now with Georgetown. Just no way. I got to see more. And I've been impressed with Siena with McCollum. You mentioned him being their best player, top scorer, but them shooting it too. A lot of the bench has helped out for this team. Not very big, but I think they can hang around here. There's still some sixes out there, but I see 5.5s, even drop to 5 a few books like Bookmaker. So if you could still get 6, I think they, can hang around. And we know Georgetown get out to some lead. Sometimes they can't hold it, and they fall apart. It's a little crazy, this Georgetown, how this basketball has just kind of gone downhill the last, at least 5 years for sure. So tough time right now for Georgetown. I couldn't lay it. So I'm looking Siena here, +6.
I'm in agreement. Yep, Siena. That wouldn't shock me if they win outright. It's a good Siena team. Once we get into the Metro Atlantic, that's going to be a good basket. They could win that conference, in my opinion. I know Iona gets all the hype, and Iona looked damn good. I mean, yes, last night against St. Louis.
Yeah, I was shocked. St. Louis again. I thought they just needed a few more points. I didn't think bad shooting night, and Iona looked good. Yeah,
they're better off.
But they're a top 2 or 3. You mentioned Siena. I think they'll be right there.
Yeah,
in that conference.
Definitely. Yeah, they're a good team in that conference, and I think they're going to hang tough with Georgetown tonight as well. DePaul and St. John's. We've got St. John's 9-point home favorites, 158 the total. Holy shit. I mean, I bet this thing when it was, what I didn't even get the best number, but I got it when it was 156, and it's already gone up even more since then. But the over, obviously. I mean, you've got two teams that are going to push pace, push tempo, be good offensively, suspect defensively. It's got all the perfect elements of an over. And I know last year with DePaul versus St. John's in these Big East Conference games, I took the over in those games and was rewarded for it. 4 straight head-to-head meetings have gone over the total. Those games totaling 171, 173. We had a 99-94. That ended up getting to 193 points in the first meeting last year. And then the second meeting, 92-73. It got into the 160s with 165. There's still value, believe it or not. I don't see how this doesn't get into the 160s tonight with DePaul and St. John's. I think you're going to see this game fly up and over the total. DePaul trending over the total. St. John's has gone over in 2 of their last 3. They got slowed down and grinded down by an excellent Iowa State defense. 60 points for St. John's on the road. Now they're going to get their pace. Now they're going to get their preferred style of play because DePaul will run with them up and down the floor. Give me the over here. I lean St. John's too in a bounce back spot, but not crazy about laying the 9. I think the over is the much better bet. What do you think here, Conor?
Yeah, I mean, this number doesn't seem that bad because, like you mentioned, they've just flown over in the past, but still, it's a ton of points. I lean it. I'm not going to bet it. I like St. John's a little bit, but I just don't love. Right. It was right around 10. I mean, I see 9s and even 8.5. I kind of look the other way. I don't trust DePaul much. I want to see it a little more from them, especially defensively. But I think they could score a little bit on St. John's, which I haven't been crazy impressed with their defense so far. So close. I need doubles, to be official on DePaul. So in that way, I'm off. I would just lean the points with them.
All right, lean to the points here in this one. All right, next up we've got, as we continue along here, Hofstra taking on Purdue. A little non-conference action here. We've got Purdue, as you would expect at home, 22-point home favorites, 142 the total in this game. Purdue looks, very good, obviously, early in the season. There's no question about that. It's a question of focus, though, in this spot. I mean, I know they're 8-0 straight up on the season, 4-0 straight up at home this year in West Lafayette, but they're actually only 1-2-1 against the number. We saw Purdue 89-70 in their last home game against Minnesota. Very impressive, obviously at both ends of the floor. You know what that's surprising to me is that we know Zach Edey is the focal point of their offense, and they're more, post-oriented in terms of scoring the ball. They were more guard-oriented last year. But I've been impressed with Fletcher Lawyer. I've been impressed with Braden Smith, Ethan Morton. Some of the other pieces, they've contributed nicely early in the season. It's not all the Zach Edey show. Obviously, the biggest concern for Hofstra here in a game like this is, can they defend against the big guy in the low post? That's going to be the question mark. And if you look at Hofstra, they've been pretty porous on the rebounding situation this season. I mean, near the bottom in defensive rebounding, near the bottom in offensive rebounding. That is absolutely worrisome here. Don't get me wrong, but at the same point in time, you've got Purdue playing this weird scheduled non-conference game after beating Minnesota in a Big Ten game, and then they go back to the Big Ten schedule, next game on the road at Nebraska. It's just one of those spots where Hofstra, with that offensive potency they have, and that is the strength of Hofstra, is they can score the basketball, even though they got their defensive issues. And they're pretty good shooting from three-point range. Purdue's been good defending the perimeter. Believe me, I understand the money move to Purdue in terms of, the matchups really favor them. They could crush Hofstra on the glass. They take away the three, which is a Hofstra strength. All of those things play into Purdue, but the spot does not play into Purdue. And I like this Hofstra team. I'm gonna take a shot with them with some reservations with the matchups, but I'm still gonna take a shot with Hofstra here at plus 22, especially now with this. Now you're getting 3 points better of it as they've been betting Purdue early on. What do you think here, Con?
Yeah, tough here because just what you said. If Purdue comes with their A game, they've smashed teams. Like good teams by 20. So if they come to play, they'll win easily here by 25 points or more. But this is a lot. It's just the flat spot, like you mentioned. And I think it's Hofstra, the shots, if they can knock some down on this team, they're in it. They will be in this game. Estrada's pretty good. But you mentioned the glass they could get beat up on, and this could get ugly. But, man, I see these points. I kind of lean there, too. I haven't bet it. So it's just a lean with me here at plus 22.
All right, just a lean here to Hofstra.
I mean, how are you going to stop Edey? They should just go to work, but
it's unfortunate because that's what I worry about a little bit with Hofstra here is that there's going to be no answer because they've been a little undersized in the paint, and it's not good when you're facing that behemoth that you're going to have to deal with one of the best big men, obviously, in the country this season. All right, Dayton, Virginia Tech. We've got Virginia Tech, 7-point home favorites, 127 the total. I'm laying it with the Hokies here. I like this Hokies team. Nice win over the weekend against North Carolina. Okay, North Carolina is not playing up to the level we expected them to be at this year, coming off the Final Four run last year, but you don't hold that against Virginia Tech. It was a good win, and they're starting to put some better performances together. They beat Minnesota, pounded them, were leading wire to wire. Don't be fooled by the fact Minnesota covered. It was the backdoor cover there in the final minute. Virginia Tech was up by like 16-18, and then they kind of fell asleep, took the starters out. Well, Virginia Tech's rounding into form. Virginia Tech's looking like one of those, upper echelon ACC teams I thought they would be coming into the season. Their defense is starting to play a little bit better. They've got multiple guys. They're a balanced team. They can get Justin Mutz going. He's a dangerous shooter. Sean Padula, Grant Basile, Hunter Couture, Darius Maddox. I mean, they're very balanced. They don't rely on one player, this Hokies team, and I think that's what makes them tough to defend. Dayton, on the other hand, they've had some better results the last two games, but I don't know. Western Michigan's a bottom-tier MAC team. Southeast Louisiana, 80-74. Only a 6-point home win is 18-point favorites in that game for Dayton. Dayton's not right. Okay, Dayton's not playing great. They lost to BYU, crushed by NC State, lost to Wisconsin, lost to UNLV on the road earlier this year as 4-point road favorites, I should point out. I don't trust this team, and I trust them even less on the road. I like the Hokies here. I think they can win this one, possibly by double digits. I'm going to lay the 7. Connor, what do you think?
Yeah, I faded Dayton already a few times. UNLV game against NC State. I don't think very good, and the problem is they can't score, and this is going to be their problem throughout the year. If they can get just into a rock fight, and that's what they have to do. That Wisconsin game was really ugly. The 42-43 game. That was the full fucking game score. Crazy. That's what they need to do here. But, I just don't trust them. I think their defense is pretty good. But if Virginia Tech is humming on everything you mentioned, Mutz, Padula, all those guys, I think they shoot it well. They should win here. It's just that the couple possessions here at 7. I lean that way, but I haven't bet it.
Yeah, all the number here. Yeah, you do have to get a little bit of a win by margin. I think they could. I just don't know how Dayton's going to score. Maybe a Dayton team total under as well if you're a little less enthusiastic about laying a full 7 here with Virginia Tech. All right, Big Ten action. Yeah,
bad from 3, bad everywhere. These numbers.
Bad everywhere. Oof. I think just gradually Virginia Tech grinds their way to a 10-point win or more, but we'll see. Next up, we've got Nebraska and Indiana. Big Ten conference game here. Indiana 13-point home favorites here, 134 the total in this game. Total's been bet down. Indiana, I'll tell you what, they've had a nice season overall, but finally over the weekend fell to Rutgers 63-48. Again, there's Rutgers again at the rack. They're just such a different team at home, and Indiana found that out on Saturday. They will be looking to bounce back here at home. They have a 12-point win against North Carolina. They destroyed Jacksonville State by 39 as 27.5-point home favorites. They've been pretty good at home this year, destroying teams, and the toughest team they've played at home, they won by double digits as well. So feels like a bounce back spot for Indiana a little bit, but Nebraska is turning a small corner. Now, Florida State and Boston College, beating them is nothing to write home about. Florida State's been brutal. Boston College is still a pretty weak team. But then you beat Creighton. And you not only beat Creighton on the road in Omaha, but you beat them by 10, 60, and you hold them to 20 of 65 shooting the basketball. It was a stunning turn of events for Nebraska to not only forget cover. I mean, just to hang tough would have been nice. To go in there and win 63-53, maybe they're undervalued right now as they turn a corner. And Hoiberg is a decent – there's still some things about him that drive me nuts in terms of, his offensive teams. Sometimes they play too fast and they end up getting into trouble turning the ball over. But Hoiberg's been around the block. He did a solid job at Iowa State. Then he had that stint in the NBA that didn't go well with the Chicago Bulls. But now back with Nebraska, it's been kind of a struggle. But they are showing signs of Nebraska basketball, playing well, playing better defensively. That's the thing. And all season long, even in the losses, they haven't been that bad of a defensive basketball team, Nebraska. Yeah. 78th in the country, points per game allowed, a respectable middle of the pack in terms of defensive field goal percentage. So there's some things to like here about what we're seeing, particularly defensive end from the Nebraska Cornhuskers right now. So, yeah, it's in a bounce back spot, and Indiana is the better team, and they've looked really good at Assembly Hall. Maybe the betting markets are slow to adjust to Nebraska, maybe getting better. So we'll have to wait and see. And if you look at the head-to-head series with Nebraska and Indiana, Nebraska 7-point loss last year against Indiana at home. And then back in December in Indiana, they lost by 13, and that's right where this number is. And I think Nebraska's better now. They're getting better the last few games compared to anything we saw out of them last year. So even though it's that, bounce back spot, Indiana, Nebraska going to fall back and fall flat after beating their rival Creighton. I'm not so sure. I actually lean to the points here with Nebraska. The game should stay under as well, because I think Nebraska unders have value. They're not nearly playing as fast. They are a improving defensive team, so I would lean under the total as well. Connor, what do you think, Nebraska, Indiana?
Let's stay on that real quick. Like you talked about, slow paced, 287, and the defense been way better than expected for Hoiberg team, especially in Nebraska. Even caught it. I took an over to it, right away, and I'm like, whoa. I'm not going to play one of these for a minute. I was shocked, though, winning by 10 against Creighton. This seems like the bounce back, though, for Indiana a little bit. I think the numbers right there, just like the 13, 14. So I needed more to look their way. But the Walker coming back, I thought was a huge boost for this Cornhusker team, especially scoring. It helps them out a ton. They need him to have big games, and now that he's back, I think that'll help them out. I just don't love – they got their ass whipped. I was all over Rutgers. I didn't think they'd get beat like that. 48 points. They should score better here at home, but still, even with them shooting it well and all that, I wouldn't be rushing to an over, and I wouldn't be rushing to lay the points. So just a tough one here. And all that I'm talking about, I'm going to pass probably in the end, but should be a good one.
All right, we go to Pittsburgh and Vanderbilt. We've got Pitt right now, or Vanderbilt rather, 3.5-point home favorites, 137.5 the total in this one. You know what we're doing. We've been talking about the Pitt Panthers here repeatedly on this show. We took them against Northwestern on the road. They blew them out. We took them against NC State, which was, I think, an even more impressive win, because I think NC State's better than Northwestern. And they went in there and they led basically most of that game. against NC State. I like what I'm seeing. We've talked about, I'm not going to regurgitate it. The show will go faster this way. They got everybody healthy. Hughley, one of their best players, came back. They've been a different team ever since. 5 straight wins, 4-1 against the spread their last 5 games. 2 big road wins against Northwestern and NC State back-to-back. I know Vanderbilt's been capable at times. We saw them beat Temple. We saw them beat Fresno State. Hung tough with VCU, lost by 5. Wofford, they beat them, but they didn't cover as favorites. Not only are they favored here, they're being asked to win by margin against a surging Pitt team. I think Pitt can win this game as well. And I get 3.5, 4 points with them. We're on Pitt once again. The Pitt Panthers, baby, a plus 3.5. What do you think here, Connor?
Yeah, I lead them too. I don't trust Vandy, even though I think at home are a little bit better. I think these teams are kind of similar in a way. And I think this game should be close because I don't see Vandy really blowing them out. You mentioned they've played well, but what is it? 6 straight games Pitt's won, and I was impressed by that game at NC State. Can they do it here again? Yeah, I'm with you. It's just a lean for me with the 4. I haven't bet it yet, but I think they can keep this game close.
All right, next up we've got UConn and Florida. Actually, one of the better games tonight. UConn Huskies, 4.5-point road favorites in the swamp down in Gainesville, 144 the total. I like the over a little bit. And Florida, will push pace with Golden there. Now the coach from San Francisco came over from the Dons. They push the ball up and down the court. UConn's one of those teams that they'll often look to slow it down, but when another team wants to run, they're not totally against also trying to get that transition game going. So I think the game can go over the total. I kind of want to take the home dog here, the Florida Gators. I mean, I like the coaching hire. I've said that a million times. It's an upgrade from Mike White, as far as I'm concerned. 6-3 straight up, 4-1 here at home, Florida. But I made the mistake of fading UConn for the first time this year against Oklahoma State, and they barely covered, but they did cover as 9-point favorites by 10. And to be honest with you, they were up by double digits against Oklahoma State most of that game. It's hard to go against this UConn team right now. And the one thing about Florida is, in their step up in class games, not so good. I mean, their toughest games were Xavier. They lost that game by 7 on a neutral court. West Virginia, they got drubbed 84-55. And their wins were Stetson, Florida A&M, Oregon State, Florida State, who stink. So I can't go too crazy about them winning that game. Stony Brook was their opener. They haven't shown me they could beat a team of this caliber. And man, they really, really, really are a good team right now. Both ends of the floor. Danny Hurley's squad has got it going at the moment. So, like I said, I want to take Florida. I like this team. I'm higher on this team than a lot of other people are. I'm higher on this Florida team than the betting markets are. But at the same point in time, I stepped in front of UConn once, and it didn't go well last time. I don't know if I'm ready to do so again. What do you think here, Connor?
Man, yeah, how people have been on UConn. How can you get off here? But not the easiest to go on the road here, win by 5 or 6. I think they can. Now, I'm not crazy about it, but this is a kind of a good low here for Florida at home, catching almost 5. Florida fast, UConn slower. We know that. I just think the inside-outside game. I think Lofton's a game-time decision. He's had back problems for UConn. That'd be big if he plays. So wait and see it with that. But man, they're just a really good basketball team, right? If they clinch it down, it stays under. If they want to get into the tempo of Florida, it could just get over. And I think it's a little high of a total, the way UConn's defense had played. But on the road, you're not going to be easy in the swamp.
No, you're right. It's not going to be easy. It's a great matchup. You're right. Definitely, we'll have to see. We've got, obviously, it looks like everybody else accounted for UConn. It's a great battle at the 5 spot in this game in terms of big men, in terms of the center position. You've got Adama Sanogo for UConn, who's terrific at his position, and you've got Colin Castleton, of course, for Florida, who's very good at his position. That's a great matchup to watch for. You mentioned how Lofton, the point guard for Florida, game time decision with that back injury. That's also a cause for concern a little bit. You miss your starting point guard. It's already tough enough playing an excellent Huskies team. You want, obviously, Lofton to be available here in this game. But I do lean Florida. I do. And I might sprinkle on it, but like I say, I'm a little hesitant after the Oklahoma. Although, to be honest with you, we lost that by a point. UConn was 9-point favorites against Oklahoma State, and they won by 10. So it was pretty close to the number. This has the chance to be close to the number too. But again, I'd certainly only entertain it if Lofton's in there for Florida. And like I said, watch that battle, Sunoco versus Castleton. It's a great battle of the bigs here in this Huskies-Gators matchup. All right, we've got Arizona State, SMU. Next up here on the marquee game slate, we've got Arizona State, 5-point road favorites, 135.5 the total in this game. SMU has been a disappointment so far this year, 3-5 straight up. How about 1-7 against the spread for SMU? They have been absolutely disastrous for anyone backing them. They lost outright as 12.5-point favorites against Jacksonville State. They got blown out by A&M. They lose to ULL, the Ragin' Cajuns. They don't cover against a horrible Evansville team. They get blown out by New Mexico, blown out by Dayton. I think the number's cheap, honestly, on Arizona State. I know they got to go on the road here. And, sometimes laying points with Bobby Hurley. We just talked about Danny, his brother, Bobby. It's sometimes a little shaky. And look, the last time they were favored was Stanford. They won by 4, didn't cover in that game. Going on the road, can they get the job done? They had a nice road win, though, against a solid Colorado team in their last road game. Remember, on the neutral court, they pummeled a very good Michigan Wolverines team and beat VCU. So away from home, we've seen the Sun Devils play good enough basketball that I think laying 5.5 here, I'm willing to trust them. I'm willing to give them a look, laying the points in this one. How about you, Seaman?
Just been a disastrous year for SMU so far. This team just isn't very good. They're not great defensively. At times they struggle to score. They've been a pretty good under team. I'd look under if we're looking at the total in this game. I think Arizona State can keep this game under 2 because it's on the road. Arizona State is the better team. I don't know. Something's just fishy here. Now they got to win here on the road. They are the better team. I just don't love it. Man, if I was catching a few more, I'd look to SMU. I think they could battle here. It's just you're going off. Hopefully they bounce back. They're at home because I haven't seen it. There's just nothing good from this SMU team at all so far. So, yeah, I'm off here.
Yeah, I mean, last year, and I kind of saw the sowing of the seeds, if you will, to this maybe downturn for SMU is that a lot of their team last year revolved around Kendrick Davis, who is just absolutely outstanding for them. He's now at Memphis, and this team without him looks lost. They honestly do, and that's a problem too when you rely on one guy so much from a previous season. If you don't adequately replace him, you're going to feel it. And offensively, they've been pathetic in certain games. I mean, how do you only score 63 against New Mexico? It's not like New Mexico is like a defensive juggernaut. Or how do you only score 68 on your home floor against Jacksonville State? I mean, there's just had some terrible offensive performances. And, they missed Kendrick Davis. He was their be-all, end-all last year. And without him, there's not a whole lot there. We're finding that out with SMU this year. All right, we got Towson and Clemson. This is the last game of the marquee game portion of the show. Clemson, 7-point home favorites here, 132 the total. I'm taking Towson here. I don't love laying points with Clemson, and I still feel that way. Towson's been one of those teams that's been, maybe not so much faced the most difficult, demanding schedule in the world so far. I mean, you can only play who you play, but they've been impressive at least against who they've played. They're 8-1 straight up so far this year. They've been really good away from home, and they've been this has also been a Towson team where even last year I was backing them more on the road than at home, and this year 4-0 straight up, 3-1 against the spread on the road. When you look at Clemson, I certainly think they have a pretty solid point guard there in Hunter. They've got PJ Hall. I get it, but again, you also look at the situation with them. Inconsistency sometimes. They did beat Wake Forest, a solid win, but now you play outside your conference. You've got Richmond, you got Georgia Tech, you've got important games coming up. You're going back on a neutral court too for the next 2 games in a row. So it's not exactly a bet on spot situationally for Clemson either. And just don't trust them necessarily in this bigger favorite range. Towson's a very, very solid, sound defensive basketball team, 63rd in the country field goal percentage defense, 62nd in points per game allowed. Offensively, not quite as much. But I think when you look at this matchup here, Clemson is very bad in terms of keeping second, third chance points alive off an initial miss. Their offensive rebounding is atrocious. In fact, you look at Towson, they're a better rebounding team than Clemson. That matters when you're laying 7. you've got the opportunity, to not give up a second chance and get after the initial stop on defense if you're Towson. And then if Clemson, misses, if Towson misses their shots on the offensive glass, they could get them back because of the edge they have on the glass statistically going into this game. So I think Towson can make this an interesting, tight, competitive game. I like Towson here. They're a gritty bunch as well, well coached with Scary. And I'm not a biggest fan of Brad Brownell by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm on Towson here. The Tigers +7. What do you think here, Connor? Tigers versus Tigers, actually.
Yeah, Tiger action here. I just worry Towson really hasn't played anybody so far, and this won't be an easy one to go to Clemson. I mean, we just saw Wake. What the hell happened with Wake that second half? I think they were up like 3 or 4, and then they lost by 20. I mean, I had them. I was happy, but crazy second half. They couldn't make anything. You know what I'd look to more? Here's the total. If Towson's in this game, you like them +7. I think that, both teams pretty slow pace. 265, 281. And I think Towson needs to kind of muck this up and be in the 60s to hang around. So I lean under. I just lean under. I like to take Towson. I lean them. I don't think I'm going to get there, though.
Good stuff indeed. There we go. That is the marquee games for the Wednesday slate. We'll get into some games that Connor likes that we didn't talk about, and same with me. And in the meantime, Q&As, get them posted in the chat. We will try to answer as many of them as possible. Connor Mack, any games that stick out to you, the ones we haven't talked about yet?
Yeah, there's just a couple I wanted to touch on that I'm on. I'm on Missouri State. They haven't been great on the road, but I haven't been impressed. St. Mary's is a lot better at home, but St. Mary's has not looked good lately. And I see a couple 15s, so I'm leaning with Missouri State. I just don't think they're as bad as a basketball team as they played a little bit lately. And I think that number's huge, so I like them there a little bit. Another one that I like Loyola a little bit, +4.5. I think they can hang around in that game tonight. That was about it there. Oh, the Manhattan. I think they can stay within the 20 in that game. I kind of lean over in that game there. So that was it. The only extra ones that I had written down.
All right, there we go. A couple there for Connor Mack in terms of the games we did not get to tonight. I'll throw out a few. I'm on Cornell and Miami over, and I'm on Cornell as well. I don't love Miami as double-digit favorites, and I think Cornell can get the pace what they want. Total's gone up. I like Cornell, the dog, and the over against Miami in that game. Penn and Villanova, I'm taking a shot with the Quakers here. Penn. Now, again, we keep talking about this damn guy, Dingle. When it comes to Penn, it's always, is he in, is he out? He's been banged up much of the year. I think he's going to play last check. But either way, I like Penn. In a rivalry game, I remember LaSalle played Villanova earlier this year, and they got through the back door. I think Penn's a little bit better than LaSalle, if you ask me. So Penn plus the points against Villanova. I'm on that side as well. All right, what can Brown do for me? Brown can cover the point spread. That's what they can do for me. I like Brown plus the points as well against Rhode Island. Rhode Island's just way too up and down for my liking, and they're favored now. They've not been great as favorites this year. So Brown plus the points for me there. I'm on Cleveland State, another road dog at St. Bonaventure. St. Bonaventure, remember, completely depleted, completely dilapidated roster from last year, where everybody that was there on that great team is gone, starting from scratch. They've actually played better and better the last few weeks, but I'm still sketch on them laying this number against a team that can D up like Cleveland State. So Vikings for me plus the 5.5 there, or not 5.5, plus the 7.5 there against St. Bonaventure. Omaha Drake. I think Drake could roll in that game. 19. I don't lay big points, but I do like Drake a little bit there. 19.5. I like Indiana State and the over against Southern Illinois. Again, because I like the Sycamores in that game, I think they can get their preferred pace. So Indiana +4, over 137.5 is the total in that game. What else have we got here? A couple more. Manhattan and Providence. I almost took Manhattan there. I think they're starting to get their feet under them after the coaching debacle early in the year. Everybody, the coaching staff basically just heading for the hills. But I didn't quite pull the trigger there on that one. Connor Mack mentioned Loyola Marymount. I agree with that. I like LMU there, plus the 4.5 against Grand Canyon. I think that's not a bad look in that game. Utah Valley, BYU, I took a shot over the total in that game. I'm trying to go rapid fire because there's so many games here. Santa Clara, I kind of lean to them as a 6.5 point favorite. I agree with the total going up. Should be a lot of points there. New Mexico State and Santa Clara. I like Eastern Washington plus 3.5 against Cal. Cal laying points. Look, Eastern Washington's had some issues too this year, but Cal laying points, I'm always interested in going against that. So I'm on EWU in that game.
Real quick, how can you want to lay it with a team who hasn't won a game? I mean, they've been in some games with Cal, but Eastern Washington's been disappointing to me a little bit this year. We'll see if they can get better. If there's a time to take them, maybe it's tonight. So I was looking at that game a ton.
Yeah, Nunya asked the question. Cal gets their first win against Eastern Washington. Maybe. It's always a chance, and Eastern Washington's had some shaky performances, but I'm not laying points. I'm going to have to see it before I believe it. So I'm going to take Eastern Washington. If it loses, so be it. But I think it's still worth a shot to fade this Cal team as favorites until proven otherwise, till you see some results from this team. Weber and the over against Cal Baptist. I like both the plus points with the Weber State side and the over, and the total's been bet up in that game. I like Northridge plus the 13.5 against Fresno. Fresno I like as an underdog, short favorites. I don't like them laying double digits. I think they're a solid basketball team, but I think Northridge has what it takes to cover that number, 13.5 point road underdogs in that game. So that's just the main board. I actually have a few on the added board as well here tonight. High Volume Ian is added again. I kind of like the over in Quinnipiac, Holy Cross, over 141. Should get enough offense and pace there to see that game go up and over the total. What else have we got? Navy and West Virginia. Navy might hang around. I kind of like Navy in this spot, plus 18 at West Virginia. Navy's not a bad team. Ed DeChellis has been there for a very long time as the head coach. West Virginia, I think Bobby Huggins is starting to get this team to play better and better and better, and there's potential for this team once we get into the Big 12 season. But in this spot, kind of a downer spot, 18-point home favorites. Students are gone. So many of them because of exams and closer to the holidays. So Navy, I think, could hang around. Same with Boston U at Notre Dame. Notre Dame's starting to play better, but here they are back in this double-digit favorite range where I don't trust them. So Boston plus the points. Ryder Stonehill, I like the over, and I still think Stonehill's a little undervalued. This is a scrappy team. They're not good at all defensively, but they've got offensive potency, and it's led them to hang around in some games. So I think Stonehill on their home gym plus 4. And lean over the total there against Ryder. And I like the over with Eastern Kentucky and Tennessee. Tennessee Volunteers are pretty good offensively. Defensively, they're also very good, but I find when they play a team like an Eastern Kentucky, it's going to run and gun, transition, push the ball. Tennessee will run right with you if you're willing to do that. So Eastern Kentucky, Tennessee over the total for me in that one as well, worth a look. And I think there's one more on the added board here. Oh, yeah, Merrimack. Merrimack here in this one, plus 19.5 against San Francisco. Again, I think San Francisco this year is a solid team, upper half of the West Coast Conference. They will be once again, no mistake about that. But Merrimack and, a sleepy spot maybe for the Dons just a little bit before conference play hits. I know it's been ugly for Merrimack, 1-9. They haven't played great basketball by any stretch of the imagination. But to me, you're talking about a San Francisco team that the only time they've been laying double digits this year was once in the first game, and they only won by 12. Muck it up enough if you're Merrimack. You're getting a big number. Slow it down, which is what they're going to look to do. Plus the points, I'm going to look toward that side. Oh, and Colgate Binghamton over 146 as well. Holy shit, that's a lot of fucking bets. I'm just realizing that now. But that's what we're on. That's pretty. I've basically given you my entire freaking card right there for this Wednesday, college basketball card. All right, so there we go. That's what we're on. Conor, Mac, any other games you want to throw out there? And if not, we'll get to, I think I probably got through all the Q&As with just my own card right there. I don't know what's left.
Yeah, I think you hit them. I'm good.
Like I'm looking at some of these, like all these games people are asking about, many of them. I already talked about them with my card. Yeah, San Francisco. I look, it's ugly. Merrimack's not good, but I think it's just too many points in a massive flat spot for San Francisco, which is what I'm hoping for. That might be the only shot for Merrimack, and they slow it down that maybe they can hang in that number. I mentioned Navy plus the points, Jake, against West Virginia. I don't love the spot for West Virginia laying this kind of points. Florida Atlantic against Florida Gulf Coast. That's one we did not get to. Florida, I kind of like FGCU. Rivalry game. I think Florida Atlantic is better, but I think Florida Gulf Coast, they've been okay at times in the underdog role. A game where it's a proximity rivalry there with those two. I kind of like FGCU in that one, +7. Connor, did you have a lean in that game?
Nope.
No. All right. We'll move on to I mentioned St. Bonaventure. I like Cleveland State in that game. Delaware.
I like Cleveland State. Real quick, I lean the points with them too, 7.5.
All right, good stuff. Delaware State. I kind of lean Delaware State, the Hornets in that game, +19, 19.5. An in-state rivalry game.
Yep.
I don't know if this is one of the better Delaware Blue Hen teams. There's been a pretty good team at times in their conference, the Colonial. I don't think they've been overly impressive at times this year. They've had, they lost to Air Force first game. They got blown out by Duke. They lost at Penn by double digits. They lost as favorites against Cornell. They've been all over the map. Laying this kind of a huge number with them is not appealing. The one thing that kept me off Delaware State, though, is, this team has been really crushed the last 4 games. And even Longwood got them by, 26 points at home. So, I don't like Delaware enough to lay the number, but it's not like Delaware State's given me a ton of confidence in them lately either. So personally, I passed on it. Denver plus the points against Sacramento State, says someone in our chat here. Is that worth a look? Well, now it is, clearly because of the line move. I mean, if you like Sacramento State here, you missed the best of the number. They opened 3 in this game early on. There are some issues for Denver. All right, keep that in mind. Drake Muller's out for the season. Coben Porter's out for the season. It looks like Tevin Smith, who averages 14.5 points per game for them, is questionable tonight for the Pioneers due to unknown injury, undisclosed, but it's an injury of some kind. So they could be short-handed tonight, and that explains why Sacramento State's taking the money. You're getting the best of the number. Like, if you like Denver, you're at least getting the best number now, but personally, it's not for me.
No, I'm going to stay off because of that. It seems like a lot of people like Denver. I mean, you're getting 6.5 now. I see a bunch of money on Denver, big money, and this line's, gone the whole other way, 3.5 points. So not for me.
All right, I think we got a couple more in terms of questions in the chat about games we have not even broached yet here on the show. Yeah, Quinnipiac, Holy Cross, Tees, good to see you. I mentioned that the over, I liked that. Oh, there's one, Rocco Rogers, for a game that I know we have not talked about yet. Nunya, we talked about Utah Valley, BYU, the over there. Indiana State, Southern Illinois, Indiana State in the over for me in that game. Oh, here's a couple from Nunya here. Campbell against Evansville and IPFW against Southeast Missouri State. I kind of like Campbell. Campbell did me wrong against East Carolina last week. East Carolina just blew them out when I took them last Friday. I might come back. Evansville's horrible. All right, I have no issues fading Evansville right now. The Purple Aces. I know you're laying points on the road, 3 points here on the road with Campbell, but I'd take Campbell in a heartbeat before I take anything with Evansville right now. And then IPFW, Southeast Missouri State. In that game, let me just see where that number is currently here. IPFW, Southeast Missouri. Where is that here? Somewhere here. I'm looking for it.
Southeast Missouri State.
There it is. Yeah, there it is. 1.5
1.5
road favorites. Yeah, for IPFW here against Southeast Missouri State. Lean over. Nothing on the side. I think it could go either way. Coin flip game. I lean over a little bit though in that game with that one.
Pass.
Anything on those two? Nothing.
Pass. Don't play that game.
There we go. All right. And last question, I believe one of the last ones, and I know we haven't touched on it yet. We mentioned Eastern Washington, Cal Boogie, Maine. So, yeah, Eastern Washington plus the points. Detroit and Tulsa. I'm with you, Rocco. Detroit plus the points. Detroit's been nice in this underdog. Tulsa's been impressive, though. And I think Tulsa's better without Frank Haith as their coach. I honestly think they're better coached now. You're actually seeing some good things from Tulsa so far this season. So I ain't in a rush to fade Tulsa. They've been, I think they've been, like I say, I think it's addition by subtraction. In terms of Frank Haith. But in terms of Detroit, they've been a feisty little dog this year. I would lean Detroit a little bit in that game.
I want nothing there. I want to see more of Detroit a little bit, so I'm off there.
All right, there we go. But I do lean Detroit though, because I have taken them a couple of times this year as an under. Oh, Hawaii and UNLV, good call. Close to home for our guy Conor Mack. Hawaii's taken them, or UNLV rather, is taking the money. They're up to 8-point home favorites, 130.5 the total in this one. Yeah, I mean UNLV, so far this season, a solid start to the season for them. 8-0, 5-0 here at the Thomas and Mack Center, straight up. You could quibble about who they've played. It's been pretty light in terms of the schedule. You played, USD, San Diego Toreros. You played Minnesota, who are a bit down. Southern Illinois, High Point, Dayton is a quality win, I guess, but Dayton's nowhere near as good so far as we've seen in the past. But it's not like Hawaii is going to be that big-time extra challenge here. So, UNLV's been rolling. I'd be in a rush to step in front of UNLV. You're laying 8, maybe not a bargain, but I wouldn't be fading the Rebels right now. How about you, Conor Mack, UNLV?
Yeah, UNLV's been nothing but money for me. I think I'm 4-0, 5-0. This is stretched a little bit. I still think at home they cover. Hawaii's been all right, but I never loved them on the road as much. What I like more, Hawaii's been a solid under team. And we know UNLV's played. I just looked at this under 130. Until I start seeing more points and up and down, I would just take the under here.
All right, and NJIT and Army. NJIT's been 3-0. And actually, just when you look at their statistics this year, they've only won one game. They are 1-6, 1-7 straight up. They've only covered 3 times. The last 3 against Bucknell, Cincinnati, Wagner. 0-3 straight up. 0-3 against the spread. Army, on the other hand, we know there's a pretty good offensive team. They play with a little bit of pace. Defensively, they've been pretty good the last 2 games. I'll say this. Maybe it's a buy sign on Army. Wagner's not a bad team, and they were only a pick 'em in that game against Wagner at home. They beat them 75-64. It was a really good game for Army. I would lean to them as well, -8. I just haven't seen enough of NJIT overall and on the road to trust them. So I'd lean a little bit to Army in that game, -8. So if you want to lay the points, I wouldn't talk you out of it.
Yeah, I'm off there. It just seems like a lot, but Army should win. It's just you want to lay the 8.5.
And the last one, we'll make this the last question here. Old Dominion against Bill and his bitch, as I like to call them, William and Mary. As always with Old Dominion, it's a team that we know defensively capable, and they've shown that this year. But offensively, it's a hit or miss team sometimes, and that also includes them as favorites. And if their shots are falling to go with that pretty solid defense, like the East Carolina game, they can win and cover as home favorites. They could have a game like Norfolk State, though. Offense sputters, and you don't cover when you're laying this kind of number. William and Mary, on the other hand, look, they've gone 3-1-1 ATS their last 5 games. They beat Radford and Army outright as underdogs, beat Richmond outright as underdogs in their last game, 58-57. They're going on the road now where they've been a little bit more sketchier. They've also had a loss to American and a pick 'em on the road. So this kind of been a home road split team, William and Mary. Good at home, bad on the road. But I'm not ready to lay big points with Old Dominion in this spot. I'm leaning a little to William and Mary, but their road track record does concern me.
Yeah, nothing for me there.
All right, there we go. And the under, the under definitely I would lean with that, with William and Mary and Old Dominion. Good stuff. There we go. We'll wrap it up. Best bets to wrap up the show in just a second, right after we hear from Manscaped and Southtown 101. All right, Southtown 101. When you're in San Antonio, Texas, stop in. Great food, drinks, live music, DJs, and karaoke. Southtown 101 and Manscaped.com. Promo code PubSports. 20% off your purchase. Lawnmower 4.0 or any Manscaped product with promo code PubSports. All right, best bets to wrap up this edition of College Basketball Net Profit. Conor Mack, where are you going for tonight for best bet?
It's not crazy. Best bet. Let's go to these games that start right now, though. I'll take Siena in the 6. And in the end, I'm going to lay it with Penn State if you can get a 3.5. But even 4, I think they cover. That's it. Later on, hit me up. I'll have bets late. I like Loyola. I might just take them with the points or money line. So I'm not sure. But I'm on those two. Start in 30 minutes.
There you go. Some early best bets there for Conor Mack for this Wednesday edition of the College Basketball Net Profit show. My best bet, well, 2-0 so far this week with best bets, and I think 3 or 4 in a row if you go back to last week for me on the show with best bets. We're on a nice run. We're putting together a little mini hot streak here with best bets. We had Coppin State, NC State over last night to keep the streak going, see if we can keep it rolling tonight. We're going back to a team that I've used just recently on this show as a best bet, and we're going to go back to the well with them once again tonight. You know who? Plus 3.5. The Pitt Panthers against Vanderbilt. Pitt plus 3.5 against Vanderbilt. This team's been good to me. They're rolling right now. They're playing better. They've got everybody healthy, and they have been good on the road, good as underdogs, just like they are here tonight in this matchup. Pitt plus 3.5 against Vanderbilt for my best bet for this Wednesday college basketball card. That'll wrap up this edition of the College Basketball Net Profit Show. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Hit the like button on the way out, and hope everybody has a good night and a profitable one. For Conor Mack, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Wednesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck, and we will talk to you again tomorrow, same time, 5 p.m. Eastern, for the Thursday edition of College Basketball Net Profit right here on Pub Sports Radio.